Donald Trump has signed an executive order to end the public funding of NPR and PBS, and I say, well, largely good, but I do have a lot of concerns. Not that I like NPR or PBS, but the direction of media in this country is pretty dang worrying. And there's nothing really we can really do about it. So I am pretty alarmed at the current trends that we see on social media. Largely, I tweeted about this, and I've kind of been harping on it for some time. If you've been watching Timcast IRL. But you got these liberal podcasters, call them podcasters, but literally the only videos they ever make is about Donald Trump. Now, I will say this. I make a lot of videos about Donald Trump, and I think that's okay to do. We talk about news stories, so one of the stories I put up yesterday was about a guy who murdered some woman, and we've got, of course, the impeachment of Trump as well. We've also talked about AI and things like this. And now we're talking about media, but it is Trump. So I think that's fair. I'll cut him a little bit of slack. But a lot of these guys, they literally do nothing but talk about Trump. Literally every single video they put. Spare maybe one or two special episodes. And they're getting hundreds of millions of views. So here's what I say about this. Trump should be defunding this kind of content. This is what NPR and PBS are doing. And if you look at the corporate press, they are all becoming this deranged. And I blame largely social media companies and big tech, but there's no solution to be completely honest. Take a look at the story first. Let me give you the facts and the details and show you examples of how the media has become absolutely insane. And then let's talk about what this means for our future. Trump signs executive order seeking to end federal funding for NPR and PBS, New York Times reports. President Trump on Thursday, we get it. Trump instructed the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which funds public broadcasters in the U.S., to end federal funding for NPR and PBS to the extent allowed by law. The outlet receives only a small portion of their funding from Congress, with the rest coming from donors and sponsors. Now let's pause real quick. The outlets NPR and PBS. But the Corporation for Public Broadcasting gets money from Congress and disperses it to a bunch of radio stations, which then carry NPR. They are lying about how this actually operates. NPR and PBS themselves get a small portion, indeed. But what about all the subsidiary networks, radio stations, etc.? Right. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting exists for a reason. The immediate impact of the order was unclear. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a taxpayer-backed private entity, created by an act of Congress, is funded 2 years in advance to protect it from political maneuvering. CPB is not a federal executive agency subject to the president's authority. Patricia Harrison, the president and chief executive of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, said in a statement on Friday, Congress directly authorized and funded CPB to be a private nonprofit corporation wholly independent of the federal government. The executive order was the latest move by Trump's administration against what it described as a biased public media. I think there's a better way to go about this. And this is why I was saying, I don't know for sure. I mean, I like the idea of cutting off the far left crackpot lying press, but Trump's got authority here in terms of funding. What should happen is he should apply pressure. Now, I said this back when Patreon banned our good friend Carl Benjamin. They said he was on a live stream and he used a racial slur. Well, the context matters. He was insulting racists. He was talking to white racist guys, and he called them the N-word to make the point. You guys are actually what you describe other people to be. And they said, we don't care if you're arguing with white supremacists. So they banned him, cut off his income, which is weird and insane. My response, and I talked to them directly, was, guys, you could have literally called him on the phone and said, don't do this. We don't want to lose. Like, their argument was, we're going to get all of our accounts on Patreon shut down when service providers and, financial services cut us off. So we banned him. And I said, go to him and say, hey, don't say racial slurs on shows. And he would have been like, all right, I guess. He could make the point without doing that. Instead, they nuke him outright, create a massive exodus, which launches a bunch of other platforms, which have succeeded, by the way. That's not the way to go about doing things, in my opinion. The problem we have with NPR and PBS is they're driven largely by an obsession cranked out, which I refer to as an Elsa Gate phenomenon. And that is the amount of views you get on YouTube, which is the second biggest search engine and one of the biggest video platforms, if not the biggest in the world. If you make anti-Trump content, you will be bigger than Joe Rogan. And I'm not exaggerating. I do want to do, a bigger segment on this, but take a look at this. Joe Rogan has 52 million views in the last month. Brian Tyler Cohen has 196 million. Okay. That's what is driving this psychotic reality. The algorithm is just spam blasting this in front of people. And the only thing they're seeing every single day is Trump did something bad. Trump did something bad. So if you're wondering why people think Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a nice family man and not a wife-beating, human trafficking gangbanger. Oh, yeah, more videos just come out. It's because YouTube doesn't share that to people. Now, I'm not immediately going to blame YouTube. YouTube, the algorithm, it runs the way it runs. They'll make the algorithm and then people will fall into those places. I certainly think YouTube should realize what they're doing with this insanity, but there's no good answer. Really, there isn't. Let me show you the corporate press. I want to give you this as an example. The New York Times. A mother and father were deported. What happened to their toddler? The Trump admin sent the mother of a 2-year-old to Venezuela and the father to El Salvador in prison. Their daughter remains somewhere in the United States. No. The 2-year-old American citizen still here, but with no parents? You can't deport the parents of an American citizen. How is that kid going to survive? Donald Trump, you are, I'm so mad. I'm going to make a video about how bad Trump is. Anyway, now that I've calmed down, let's see what else the New York Times has to offer. What's this? 2-year-old U.S. citizen deported with no meaningful process. What? A federal judge in Louisiana said the deportation of the child to Honduras with her mother, even though her father had filed an emergency petition, appeared to be illegal and unconstitutional. Wait a minute. You mean when you deported the woman wanted her 2-year-old to go with her? So you did let the child go? Ooh, I'm so mad. Trump does everything wrong. Trump, he should not allow 2-year-old American citizens to stay in this country if their parents are deported. And Donald Trump should send... should not allow 2-year-olds to go home with the parent who requests them. What? Oh, I know. The Democrats came out and said, yeah, but the father filed an emergency petition. I get it. The issue is this. Literally, no matter what Trump does, it's bad. Donald Trump deports 2 people. The kid can stay. Okay. How dare he leave that kid here in limbo in the United States? Okay. A mother was getting deported. She requested the child go with her, and the Trump admin said, okay. How dare he do that? He should have let the child stay with the father. If Donald Trump had this child stay, they'd have complained about it. That's the point. I understand it's a little bit, no, it's not 1 for 1. The point is, do you let the child go with the parent being deported or not? Doesn't matter. The left, the corporate press, the media will say it's wrong no matter what you do. Lord help us. So when Trump says, you know what, we shouldn't be funding anything related to this, I say, you got it, boy. You got it, buddy. This is ridiculous. But this is I'll tell you what I think the challenge is. Let's talk about media, right? I think I got a tweet pulled up. What is this, Pete Hegseth? In case you wonder what we and President Trump are up against, 100% negative coverage from the so-called mainstream press. Like, come on, man. Literally not a single good day for Pete Hegseth. We've got the enlistment is up. Like, people actually want to join the armed forces now under his leadership. He's doing a good job. There have been some mistakes. Signalgate, I don't think that was a big deal. Not good, but I ain't crying about it. Nobody died. Look at this. Elon Musk, 96% negative coverage. It is. Elon says, you got me beat. We're fucked, Sorry for swearing. I try not to swear, but holy crap, ladies and gentlemen. We are screwed. Look, what's happening right now is that, I hate to say it, okay, but you look at Joe Rogan. He talks about a bunch of things. It's an eclectic show. 52 million views. Now, I'm not saying Joe's not the biggest podcast or impugning his reach. No. I'm using him as an example on YouTube because he's the biggest podcast in the world. Biggest podcast. Even with the other shows jumping above him in certain rankings, you can't beat the Joe Rogan Experience. in terms of what a podcast is, these conversations, the man has the golden touch. But even he is nothing compared to Trump derangement syndrome. Brian Tyler Cohen, on his YouTube channel, makes nothing but anti-Trump videos. Every single video. It's just tracking every move Trump makes and screaming about it. I honestly think Trump probably should just not be in the press for a little bit. Probably wouldn't work, to be honest. This guy is a Trump review channel. He gets more views than Joe Rogan on YouTube. Now, I'll put it this way. Rogan will put out a podcast and 1 million, 2 million, some get 3 million, some get more. In recent past, a lot of the podcasts he does, they're getting like 600 to 1 million. But the bigger guests, the bigger conversations, they get a couple million. That's great. Now for Cohen, he's making, like 4, 5, maybe 6 videos every single day. And they're getting about 500,000 each. So they're smaller per video, but he's making way more. Some have suggested, yes, Rogan's probably got 30 million diehard unique listeners, and Cohen's probably got less. But I don't think that's true. When you also look at David Pakman, you can see that his videos have wild swings. Some have 30,000, some have 500,000. I believe they're largely getting algorithmic views, Elsagate style. Rogan's got natural pull because everyone knows he's the biggest of the best. He's just Rogan. Tyler Cohen, you probably never heard of. His podcast, as a podcast, is not that big. But his channel is massive because he spam blasts Trump is bad. And there is a subsect of people on YouTube and in this country that will watch every single video because they're addicted to hate and rage. This creates an effect. When people like journalists at NPR or the New York Times see the numbers, the math is clear. Look, we sell ads here at Timcast. Everybody does. And the sponsors ask us how many people we're going to reach. And we say, when we do a show, Timcast IRL, we're probably doing, things have been really good for us, I will admit. With the Rumble launch and the shout out and promotion from Steven Crowder and Dan Bongino, tremendous respect and appreciation for that, guys. Our viewership has massively exploded. So we were doing, 300, 350 on average on Timcast IRL. We're now doing 600 to 700 by adding Rumble to our roster. So the show's like doubled in size. We've now been hitting the 3rd biggest show in the country live every night, and we're still not getting 20 million views. But here's the thing. So I tweeted this out. I insulted Brian Tyler Cohen because to be fair, I'm not the most tactful and professional person. I'll be the first to admit. Maybe if I shut up, stopped complaining about myself sometimes, I might be a bigger show. But look, I wear my thoughts and feelings on my sleeve and make videos when I feel like making videos. I talk about what I want to talk about. Some people don't like it. I respect that. Maybe I should chill the F out sometimes. But that being said, I insulted him because I'm like, this is sick. And he then took a screenshot from the Culture War channel where the average viewership for the clips is like, 10 to 30K maybe. And he said, what is it like to look at a channel with views? He hit the nail on the head with the hammer. He really did. First, he's going to the smallest channel that I have, okay, where we put up clips from an interview show, which don't get as many views. To be fair, the daily interview specials that we do are getting 100 to 200,000. He didn't want to show those, though. Why? That's the point. When he shows that he gets 500,000 per video, that's what drives people to hate Trump because they're sociopaths. Not that they really hate him. But there are a lot of, and I'm going to give Hassan Piker credit too. 100%. I really do mean this. I've been talking about a lot. But he talks about a lot of things, not just Donald Trump. Certainly talks about Trump a lot. But I can give respect to Hassan for talking about foreign policy issues and Sam Seder the same. I mean it. I mean, the guys waste time talking about me. Hassan doesn't talk about me that much. He did recently because of the news. Totally fine. He's allowed to do it. I'm not mad at him for talking about what he wants to talk about. Sam Seder talks about me way too much, but I can still respect that they're not just saying Trump 800,000 times. Same thing with breaking points. They're very tedious, Crystal, not Sagar. But what happens is these younger people, these media people, these New York Times people, these NPR people, these PBS people, they see where the numbers are. Now, I don't think Brian Tyler Cohen is getting 30 million unique views. How could Timcast this is the interesting metric that is not tracked. I'm not trying to humble brag or anything. When we had 74,000 concurrent viewers 2 nights ago. We had 65 last night. Those are unique organic views all at once. I believe that of the views he's getting, Brian Tyler Cohen, 196, it's probably 10 people watching 20 videos a month or more because he's doing like 5 or 6 anti-Trump. It could be 1 million people watching 100 of his videos per month, just spam blasting how they hate Trump. Whereas with Joe Rogan, it's 30 million people watching 1 or 2 episodes a month. More unique people. The problem is the metric convinces people to chase after the anti-Trump narrative, and that's how you get the New York Times running negative stories on Trump no matter what he does. They say, I'll put it this way. When I worked for Fusion, I was told by one of their marketing guys, mothers share more than anybody else. That's who we target. No joke. They said, we want more shares, so we want content that moms are going to get driven by. Anger is more likely to generate a share, and women are more likely to share. So let's piss off women. He didn't say it like that, but that was the idea. Content that will rile up middle-aged women does the best. So here's what ends up happening. When they're doing ad sales, they don't care who. They say, look, we just need the numbers. We promised a sponsor 500,000 views. We have to deliver. Okay, there's a couple ways to do that. Spam blast anti-Trump content, and one person will watch it 500 times, 500 views. Indeed. Advertiser doesn't know that. They don't sell as well, though, but they still get paid. The company. The other tricks they've got is ad rights distribution. And my favorite is you sell an ad spot on a show, and then when you don't get the views, you run the show as an ad itself to get guaranteed views on YouTube. It's really brilliant stuff. Ultimately, I say this. Trump cutting off the media is a good thing, but it's not going to change the algorithmic psychopathy of these channels that spam blast Trump content. So let me just put it this way. Timcast IRL is the 3rd biggest live show in the country on average because we have a broad, unique viewership. That means when we talk about, let me take a look at what I've got now. EU power outage, UFOs, Jack Posobiec attack, Trump, there we go. Rockstar requesting asylum for Brits, Elon Musk. Basically what I try and do on this channel is talk about news stories that I think matter. And admittedly, the views are, here we go, 200,000, 140, 150, 150, 160, 200. A couple from yesterday, 90,000. They usually pick up in a little bit. CBS 60 Minutes, 368. That was a big one. I'm not getting 500,000, but it's because I don't talk about one thing nonstop. So one person might click the Elon Musk video and not the Trump video. But I have scruples. I try to make sure that I'm doing something that's balanced, that gives a broad view of media. The corporate press is not doing that. What I will say is, to a certain degree, they are, more so than these liberal podcasters. My fear, however, is, I pulled up the New York Times to make this example. They absolutely still do this. It's not news. And people think they're being informed by this. Guys, I understand the nuance of a father filing a petition. The response I got from fans of Brian Tyler Cohen is, of course he's talking about Trump. Trump's the president. So he's a presidential review channel? If that's where we're going, and the only media people consume is one thing, a myopic single subject, it's going to drive people insane. More importantly, Trump isn't doing everything wrong. Trump looked like an idiot when he gaffed on the MS-13 on the hands. Okay, that was stupid. Trump has done other stupid things that I think are worse. Foreign policy things. I don't want to be involved in these things. I don't. I was talking to Seb Gorka and I said, he mentioned that they were doing a strike in Sudan, and I was like, I don't want to be involved in this stuff. And he gave me his argument. But I respect it. I do. No regime change war. We're doing less than before. We're in a middle ground. And I said this the other day, I'm not a libertarian who's going to be like, no, it must be all or nothing. I'm like, okay, I will take no invasions, no regime change war. You're doing targeted strikes. Far from perfect. Not a fan. Trump universal tariffs, I said from the get-go, I am skeptical that this will work. Selective tariffs, I think, make sense. I think this is going to be bad. But we'll see. I don't know what the plan is. I'm not going to come out and vomit on myself screaming about every single thing Trump does is wrong. But he's not a perfect guy and he makes tons of mistakes. He just happens to be more aligned with my moral worldview, and I support him in those efforts. That is a reasonable worldview, in my opinion. Trump is always wrong no matter what is psychotic and obviously not correct. But half the country lives in that world. So I'm deeply concerned about where this goes. But I suppose I'll wrap it up there. Otherwise, I rant too much on this issue. Nuke them, get them out, see if I care. But how we solve this problem, man, I don't have the answers. I'll leave it there. Stay tuned. We got more segments coming up throughout the day. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see y'all then.